All right, looks like we're live. Hey, sports card fans, it is John Wade Boggs fan here with Don. Don's a Field of Dreams cards with
Okay.
a special live stream version of Two Guys, One Hobby. Great to be part of the Four Collectors live stream kickoff event. We'll be on for an hour here, and we have a very special guest that we're going to interview and talk about vintage baseball cards and being a young vintage collector.
Welcome to Four Collectors.
All right, and today's guest, we have Jack from Cracker Jack Cards. Jack, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you, Jack.
Good. Now, for everyone watching, Don, as you can see, is not at home. He is on his way down to South Carolina.
Correct. I'm in the middle of West Virginia right now. So when I said, yeah, the 27th is great for me, totally forgot I was taking my daughter back to college that day. So,
yep.
But
so if we
far the
happen to
receptions are
lose,
good.
Yeah, if we happen to lose Don on the live stream here, we'll just make it One Guy, One Hobby with Jack. So we'll go with the flow here. But Don, hopefully your connection will last at least an hour here.
We'll see.
So we're happy to have Jack on, and the reason why I'm so interested in talking to you about vintage baseball cards is you're one of the younger generation that us as old time vintage collectors like to see the new generation being interested in vintage cards. Now, I know you've recently did a On with John Mangini episode. So I'm going to try to avoid some of the same questions that he asked, because I'm sure a lot of you watched that video. But I think for those who didn't, some of the questions I think would still be relevant. So you're 15?
I am 15. Yep.
Okay, 15 years old. So one, how long have you been collecting sports cards in general, and how long have you been interested in vintage sports cards?
Well, my love for cards really started when I was about 5, maybe. I started collecting Pokemon cards, but then ended up I was like, well, Pokemon is kind of a weird little thing. So I switched over to football cards. I would just go to Target, buy packs, and then later on I ended up giving all my football cards to my brother, and I started collecting baseball cards. And I guess collecting vintage baseball cards really started with buying like 90s wax packs, and ever tried to get older and older cards, and I just love the old designs and everything like that. So
okay. So because I would think for younger collectors, they would be more into watching sports on TV, following current players, and wanting cards of those players that they're actually seeing play. What is it about vintage cards, players that have maybe long since retired, maybe Hall of Famers, that gives you interest as opposed to maybe following some of the current players and wanting their cards?
Well, sadly for me, I live in Minnesota, and we haven't had a good any team since 1991. So
that's newer than me.
So
baseball
wise, yeah. But I think it really started with my dad, and it's kind of just he really started getting me into older sports and just learning about like the players' legacies and just how like legendary some of these players were. Like, oh, Harmon Killebrew supposedly hit a 520-foot home run. Can't prove it, but it's just a legend,
Yeah, because it is different that, obviously you can go watch the TV, the highlights, on your phone or computer. You can check out current stats of players and you can see how they're doing. But for vintage players, you actually have to do some research, learn about the players, the teams they were on, the seasons that they had, years that they won an MVP or a Cy Young or things like that. So how much research have you done on some of these players, even maybe beyond Minnesota Twins players, for some of the cards in your collection?
I would say a fair amount. I mean, I have to balance between work and football and school. But I would say most of my free time is spent researching players. Not too much. I'm getting more into like the more early 1910s, 1920s, 1930s. But I would say I know a lot about 60s, 70s, 50s.
Is your dad a card collector?
Yeah, he does collect.
With you?
He collects with me.
Okay. So is it just baseball for him as well, or does he collect football or basketball? Or?
It's just baseball for both of us. I got him. He started collecting when he was younger, and then I got him back into collecting. I was begging him to collect with me, so.
Here's like a chicken or an egg type question. So do you find yourself learning about a particular player and then wanting to get some of their cards, or do you happen to stumble upon a card of a player you may not know about, but it looks like a cool card, and then you decide to do research and learn more about that player, or is it a mixture of both?
I would say Hall of Fame wise, I would say that usually it is I learn about the player first, and then I find out about, or then I find some cards of them. But I do, I would say more of the lesser known players, I usually research or get their card and then research about them. And also I do TTMs, so which is through the mail autographs, and usually I research about them, maybe ask them, could I get the inscription? Because maybe they were a one-time all-star or something. So
okay, all right. We may have lost Dawn, hopefully just temporarily, but that's okay. In watching your interview with John Mangini, I think if I recall, in addition to individual cards that you collect, you're also working on trying to complete some vintage sets.
Yep. I've completed one vintage set so far, and that is the 1975 set. But I am working on pretty much every single set from for Topps and Bowman. For Topps, I'm working 52 to 1981, and for Bowman right now, I'm doing 50, 52, 54, and 55.
All right. So so do you just buy like for some of these years, do you work buy like maybe some starter sets and use that to build off of to get a good start on that set, and then try to fill in the blanks and get maybe some of the star cards, Hall of Famers in that? Or do you just go out and look for small little lots and individual cards?
I think the smaller lot probably. The reason I did start collecting sets was because I wanted to organize everything, because everything was so unorganized in my collection. So I put them all in binders and pages and organized them by number. So that's really the main reason. But now I've just been wanting to get more and more. So yeah.
Okay. Well, was the 75? You said you've completed the 75 set, which is a great set, by the way. One of the best, if not the best. Well, to me, maybe the second best from the 70s, but I'm a little biased. Was there something special about the 75 set that you wanted to complete first, or is that just maybe how it happened?
I think it was because so a little backstory here. I stumbled upon all of my dad's old cards that when he collected from a kid, and he grew up in the late 60s and then 70s. So I found a whole 5,000 count box, and then 75 was the year that he had the most cards of. So that I guess that's how I finished it first.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, that's a great way to start off when you have maybe close to a completion there, it's easy to finish off.
Mhm.
Now, beyond the sets, I know you have individual cards and maybe some that we'll get here that you can show off. Do you mainly collect ungraded? I'm not going to use the word raw, but ungraded cards versus graded. Is there a mixture? Do you have what's called a Frankenstein collection in terms of any graded cards, or do you just stick with one grading company?
So for my sets, I like to keep everything raw or ungraded. I don't want to make John Mangini mad. So yeah, everything would be ungraded in my sets. And then for Hall of Famers, just kind of PC cards, I guess it really doesn't matter to me. But yeah.
All right, looks like we have Don back, at least temporarily.
It was actually because my phone was up on the dashboard. It got too hot.
Oh,
So,
that would cause a problem. It is really nice out on this Sunday
I'm
here.
good now.
So let's. I know we've been talking here for maybe about 10 minutes or so. I'm not sure if there are any specific questions from the audience. I'm not sure how many we actually have. It looks like we have a decent number of watchers on the live stream here. I don't know if any of them had any questions for. Okay, Jack, how's your Don Mossy collection coming along? Scott Reindeer Studios wants to know.
Well, I would say it's going pretty good. I have his rookie card, and I got his second-year card, and I've got a couple sprinkled out throughout. Couple league leaders. Just I love the ears. I love the ears.
That's about 4 more than you need in your collection, Jack.
Yeah. All right, here's Orlando asking if you have any Cracker Jack cards.
I do not. I've been looking for some. They're very expensive. However, I do have the complete reprints.
Okay.
And the reason I named my channel Cracker Jack Cards is because of I was thinking of something that was with my name and also resembled baseball cards.
Yeah. Here's a Three Rivers card collector, Jack. Who are your favorite players to collect? That was good. A good question there. I was going to ask, or are you too focused on sets right now to single out a couple? So any favorite players?
So I'm a Twins fan. So obviously the Killebrew is my favorite player. I just obtained his rookie card and his second-year card. I'm getting very close to finishing his player run for Topps. I wouldn't say I'm really focused on sets right now, mostly. So, Harmon Killebrew, pretty much the only twin PC because the Twins are a newer team. I would also say any 30s players.
Okay.
30s Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Nice.
Even a lot of vintage collectors, at least that I know, tend to, they may have, just like me, I don't have many cards earlier than 1948, a few T206s, and I think a play ball of a somewhat common player. So it's very interesting, especially, again, as part of the younger generation, to say, yeah, I'm really focused in, I like the 1930s and older. Dawn and I had Orlando on, I think it was maybe our last episode, Dawn.
I forget who we had.
Yeah, on one of the recent episodes. And he was talking about pre-war and really the early, even some of the late 1800s into early 1900s cards. And I know for me, that's an area that I just haven't explored yet, learned a lot about yet. And it sounds like you're already, steps ahead of me in terms of either having those cards in your collection or knowing more about them. So are there any pre-war cards specifically, either sets or cards that you have in your collection? Maybe you have a couple to show off that are some of your favorite.
Yes, I do. I'm gonna have to. I brought a pretty big pile over here. This was. Let me find it really quick. Here's a. I really like the Gaudis. So here's a 33 Earl Averill.
Nice.
The back on this one is not looking too well, but it's still a really nice looking card.
I think that in a lot of cases gives cards some character. You
Yeah.
know, someone had that card and wrote on it, and for some reason, maybe that was the person's name who had that card.
Yep.
Yeah.
And here's one of the Gas House Gang members, Pepper Martin.
Nice.
I've got a couple other Gaudis here. There's Joe Cronin, another legendary Washington senator, later turned into. And then I also have another Washington senator, Hall of Famer, Goose Goslin.
That was a great card.
The back on this one is very poor, but
so I love the on the front of that card with the stadium background.
Yeah.
I love stadium background images.
The crazy part of about that card is I paid $30 for it. So, and then this is one of my favorite pre-war cards that I have, and that is a T205 Joe Tinker.
Oh, that is nice.
T205s, I like those better than T206. They're beautiful.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. So good. So and so have you done some research on some of those players there from the Gaudi cards that you've picked up there?
Yes, actually I did. I did a video not a couple months ago, maybe 4 months ago, and I researched all about those players. I did a little biography on them, and I told about them. And then I have about maybe 5 or 6 other Gaudi cards that I have, and I also talked about them as well.
All right. Well, that'll be a good plug that for those of you who are not familiar with Jack's channel, it's a Cracker Jack card or cards?
Card.
On card. Cracker
yeah.
Jack card. Yeah. On YouTube, so definitely look him up there. All right, Don, I don't know if you have some other questions. I think you said you may have a trivia. I know we're on our Two Guys One Hobby. We always break and at some point and have a little trivia question for the son of usually my embarrassment.
Yeah, so Jack will probably know it. You probably won't. But so I'm headed to Greenville, South Carolina right now. And there is a very famous baseball player who has a museum there and owned a liquor store there for a long time. Do you know who that is?
Greenville, South Carolina, and owned a liquor store?
Yep.
Could you give us a range of
Pre-war?
Pre-war.
Pre-war. Hall of Famer?
No.
Oh.
Known? Is he known? Is he like a...
Yeah, you've heard of him.
We've heard of him, but he's not a Hall of Famer.
Right.
South Carolina?
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
That is correct.
Oh.
Thought I got you. The Hall of Famer part.
Yeah. You mainly, or know the Hall of Famers. And it's okay, who would be well known that's not a Hall of Famer? So yeah.
Yeah, pretty much him and Pete Rose. I mean, there's others, obviously, but the steroid guys. So, Jack, I know this isn't about cards, but you said you had football practice. Have you had your first game yet this year?
Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had a scrimmage against a rival town. So that was fun. Not really, but it was fun. I got pretty beat up.
Now, are you is this freshman ball or JV or varsity?
Freshman football.
Freshman ball football, okay.
I play center, end, long snapper, and a couple other things as well. So
quarterback, kicker, linebacker. You're pretty busy. Three, would you say long snapper,
Yep.
center, and end?
Yep.
So did you play the whole game?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. So you had mentioned to John and I that you were going to get Chuck Foreman and someone else's autograph yesterday. I can't remember who the other one
Sammy
was.
White.
Sammy White, the wide receiver. So how did that go?
I'm going actually right after this.
Oh, that's today. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was yesterday.
Mm.
Okay. Now, is this a card show or just a signing? Or?
It's at a Walmart, and they're just going to be there signing autographs.
Okay.
So hopefully I can get.
Do you go to many card shows?
Not recently. I've been pretty busy, but I started a new job. I work at Chick-fil-A, so it seems like every day they schedule me on a Saturday, which is usually when the card shows are. So yeah.
Now I don't think you weren't at this year's national in Chicago, correct?
Sadly not.
Have you ever been to a national yet?
I want to go to the one next year, but it's just kind of a tough. Like you got to fly or drive.
Does football practice run into that too,
no.
Okay, so you're good there.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, it's a much easier drive for Don and I next year to go to Cleveland, being in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But it's a great time, especially with meeting all the fellow YouTubers, which is my highlight of the national as well. So you got interested in vintage at an early age. You like pre-war cards mainly. Are there other post-war cards, say from the 60s on, that are some of your maybe favorite sets or some cards that you have?
Yeah. So let me look here. Oh, I only have one of these cards, but I think they're pretty awesome. The Venezuelan cards. This is the Casey Stengel 1964.
That actually looks in really good condition. Some
Yeah.
are just.
I think I might get it graded. I don't grade many cards, but this one might be.
Yeah, I think that one may be. Again, even in fairly low condition, there aren't too many that would even get like threes and stuff. So
yeah,
it has a nice pack. That's rare too.
Yeah.
I've got some thrown around here. These aren't 60s, but this is probably my favorite set, the 52 Bowman.
Yeah.
And I also have a 51 Bowman pulled aside, and this is one of the TTMs I got. This is Vernon Law.
Oh wow! Now that is some. What all did he put on that?
He put Cy Young and World Series champ, 2-time All-Star, comeback player of the year, and Lou Gehrig Award.
Oh, nice.
This is my favorite TTM.
Yeah, that's a great inscription.
Yeah.
What is the Lou Gehrig Award? I've never even heard of that.
I think it might be comeback player of the year.
Okay.
I like the 53 tops. I like those cards. Those are just awesome looking. This is my favorite 56 tops I have.
Yeah, I love that card.
Yep.
It's got some tape, but I mean, it looks.
How many Hall of Famers are on that card? Do you guys know?
On this card?
Yep.
Is the umpire a Hall of Famer?
He is.
He is.
And that is
three.
And yes, and that's Willie Mays sliding. And somebody, and I'm drawing a blank, just did a video on it, and they showed the photograph. Someone in the chat might remember who that was.
Huh.
Might have been Carlisle Red, the Braves guy. I think it was him. And he said there aren't two Hall of Famers, which everyone thought he was going to say, oh, this isn't Willie Mays. And it turns out it was, but the umpire is in the Hall of Fame as well.
That's pretty cool.
There we go. The battery. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much my first real vintage card that I ever obtained. and that's a 56 Richie Ashburn. I bought it, and I did not even know who Richie Ashburn was.
Yeah. So you just like the look of the card.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's a good one to start off with.
Yep.
Yeah. Looking at some of your cards, again, you can still show off some of the others here, but already looking at some of the examples that you have, it looks like, and I've learned very early on, being on YouTube and seeing other people's collections and habits and what they want in their collection. I know I have certain criteria of the cards, and others, like maybe Jake, Legends Never Die. He's a ungraded collector. It looks like you are of the mindset that you, because some of the cards, maybe a little bit off center, have some creases in them or whatever, but you still, based on just your expression, you're happy to have those cards and they bring joy to you, which is great. So it sounds like your mentality is, hey, I just want a copy of the card. It could be beat up. Hey, I maybe get it cheap. The back maybe have some writing on it or whatever, that you're not necessarily concerned about grade or creases or centering. Is that correct?
For me, yeah. For my dad, no. He's a little bit more of a stickler for that. But man, like this Monty Irvin right here. Look at the front. I mean, beautiful color, and it's his rookie card, I believe. But the back, it was taped and it got ripped on the top. But I mean, the front, that's what matters.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And again, everyone, and I think most of us out there can learn to appreciate other people's collections and stuff. Maybe some are a little bit more maybe judgmental, but I think that's great. I personally, one, because you're young, you don't have a lot of money. Yeah, you're working a job, but you're still in school. So I'm sure you don't have a huge hobby budget.
Yeah.
And it's a way for you to maybe more inexpensively buy some of these cards, and you don't mind if there's creases. In some cases for me, I'm more concerned about centering, but depending on the card, I mean, I picked up a really nice 54 Bowman Mickey Mantle at the National. It's a PSA 1. There are multiple creases, but one, it fit my budget, and I don't mind the creases because it's a 54 Bowman card. I mean, I don't need a PSA 7 copy. One, I can't afford a PSA 7 copy. But overall, to me, I enjoy that card even with its imperfections. And so I think that's great that you're able to pick up ungraded cards that you can find. And like you said, that one of them just that one Gaudy card, I think you said, just cost you $30.
Yep.
And you enjoy those cards in your collection. So I think that's wonderful.
That Ted Williams you got, John, was a 1 as well, correct? The 54?
The Ted Williams was 2.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that has a couple creases that more toward the corners and stuff.
Still a great card.
But the Mantle, I think, has at least 4 creases front and back, but they're light enough that you hold them this far away from you, and you have to really tilt it to see it. So, but they're there. Yeah.
So as I said, I don't really collect football cards. However, there is one card that I do give exception to. I don't know why I like this card so much, but that is Bobby Lane's rookie card.
It's a former Pittsburgh Steeler.
The Blonde Bomber.
The Blonde Bomber.
I love the colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, those Bowmans are great.
And there's one other football card that I give exception to, and that's the Bronco Nagurski, because he played for the Minnesota Gophers.
Yeah. Now, do you? We've been talking about vintage cards up until
do you like
this
the
point.
Bobby Lane?
I'll have Don. What question did you ask? No,
I said, what drew you to the Bobby Lane? Why do you like that football card?
I think it's the colors. I mean, the 1948 Leaf cards are kind of hit or miss with the colors. But I think the colors on that card are, and it says the blonde bomber. So.
Okay. I didn't know if you liked him as a player or it was just a card or what drew you to it.
I'm surprised.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
John.
the color and the name. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, we've been talking about vintage up until this point. Do you have any modern cards? I mean, I have, even though my obviously beyond Wade Boggs cards and my vintage cards, I still like to buy, occasionally open some packs, and so I do have some modern cards, but it's not even close to a big part of my collection. Do you have some modern cards? Do you occasionally go out and buy a card of a current player?
The most recent modern card I picked up was a Joe Ryan rookie card, who was a pitcher for the Twins. But I would say pretty much the only modern cards that I buy now are the what are they called? The patches, or the relic cards.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I got a Carl Eller autograph.
Okay, so usually the more modern cards that you have, the patch cards or whatever, would they be of Twins players?
No, they'd just be. I mean, they would be relic cards of vintage players. Like,
Okay.
I was going to say, it sounds like your modern's still vintage, but
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Hey, John, in about a mile here, I don't know if you're familiar with the New River Gorge in West Virginia. It's a national park. I'm going to flip my phone to the side when I go over this bridge here, which I'm actually coming up on, which is an amazing view. If you guys can get a quick look at it. Not that this has anything to do with cars. It's just cool.
No, that's fine.
It's supposed to be one of the best whitewater rafting areas in the whole country.
Oh.
I don't know if you can kind of see.
Oh, wow.
Rocks and stuff. But it's a big area for hiking and whitewater rafting and canoeing. And I guess people come from all over the country. And I guess this bridge I'm going over is the only single span, or the first single span bridge, or the longest single span bridge, or something. But West Virginia gets a bad rap, but it's a beautiful state. But it also does live up to its bad rap in a lot of areas too.
Yep. So one of the things that you mentioned, that you collect maybe some game used cards, but they would be of modern cards of Hall of Famers.
Mm-hmm.
I know one thing I've sort of, I'll probably pick it up at some point. I sort of stopped, got distracted on various other things. But I started a collection of some of the newer top short print image variations of Hall of Famers.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any of those in your collection of, again, maybe modern cards, but of Hall of Famers? Or is it just relic cards?
I do have a couple Harmon Killebrew ones, but that's just because he's my favorite player and I want every single card of him. So.
Right.
You say you're close with the Killebrew run. Which cards are you missing?
I believe it's the 63, 61, and I think that might be it. 60. Oh, and I think of like a 73 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have the 60? Do you have the 64 top stand up?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I did bring a stand up down here though. I'm not sure where it went, but I do have I have one of those cards, and it's the Dick Grout.
Dick Groat. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jack, do you communicate or talk to any of the other younger guys in the YouTube community? Like, have you built a friendship with those guys?
Yeah. So, I do have a friend who collects vintage cards with me. His YouTube channel is Pure Collector, and he actually lives right next to me. We've been friends for 5 years and hanging out. In fact, we just went and played baseball together not too long ago. And I'm actually going to the Chuck Foreman and Sammy White autograph thing with him. He's taking me there, so
Oh, that's
nice.
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I know there's Liam, junior baseball fanatic.
Mhm.
I'm not too familiar with others, but I know there are a growing number, let's say, that are out there. I know I that gives me a good feeling to know again that there's some younger collectors out there that enjoy vintage as much as Dawn and I do. The one, and I don't know if you have it with you here if you broke it out, but I not too long ago got the Harmon Killebrew rookie card and really liked that card as well. But I think one of my favorites of his is I think it's the 58.
Okay.
Is it with the yellow background?
Yep.
Do you happen to have?
Yes, I do. I did pull that one out, and I've got
I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it has a yellow background, John.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a nice one.
His 59 tops also has the same picture.
Oh, does it?
Okay.
Yep. And another.
His rookie is 55, right?
Yep, 55, and his 56 also has the same picture as well.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah, it's very common for tops to do that.
Yeah.
Back then. But yeah, I always like, to me, the bright colors, the reds, the oranges, and then the yellows for backgrounds on some of those 50s cards.
The green ones are great too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one of my favorite Harmon Killebrews. I can't remember what year these are from.
Is that a Salada coin?
No, it's not. It's I don't know.
Okay, on my
It
phone.
looks just one of those tops coins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question here for you, Jack. When you buy at shows, do you feel that vintage dealers will give you a better deal because you're maybe a younger collector? Do you find that, or?
Actually, sometimes I do, and sometimes they're surprised by my knowledge of vintage cards. I've been like asking, oh, could I get these two cards and then bargain with them, and then they'll be like, you know what, because you're a kid, you for that. So yeah. Or I got a McTinglehoff autograph, who is a Hall of Fame center and my favorite football player because I'm a center as well. I got his autograph for free because I told the guy, oh, he's my favorite player, and yeah.
Nice.
You just given me a good idea, Jack, because my son's 17. I'm going to start sending him to tables and negotiate for me. I'm just kidding, obviously.
Babe Ruth.
Well, I know it's a stereotype, and again, I always hate to make broad brushstrokes, but it seems that a lot of the younger generation, they're into the modern cars. They're looking to flip, trade, make deals, and it's all about the hustle and all that stuff. And I think for vintage dealers, when you come along and you're interested in vintage cards and you know something about, I think it would be a difference if you gave the impression that what you were trying to do was buy some vintage in order to just try to flip it, in addition to maybe what you're doing with, if you were to do it with modern cards. So do you trade? Do you sell any of your cards to recoup and use that money to build other parts of your collections? Because some collectors, they self-fund through buying and selling. They're not necessarily flippers per se, but if they want to go after a certain card, they may sell some other cards in their collection that they no longer maybe have interest in to get funds to buy another card. So do you do any trading or selling?
Yes, I have traded before. There has been 2 occasions where I've in the past, and that I traded a card with a 50s player's grandson, Fred Munger. I traded him a card, and he gave me a card of his dad. I mean, his grandfather, and he
Okay.
a autographed 1957 Pirates team. And then also I did with my friend Pure Collector. I did a trade up challenge at a card show. I started with a Kirk Cousins patch card, and I ended
Okay.
up with a 58 Nelly Fox, and a couple other cards.
Nice. Nice. I don't know if anyone else in the live chat has any other questions for Jack. I know we paused maybe 10, 15 minutes into here for some questions. We got about maybe 15 minutes left, I think, on the live stream before we're done. So I don't know if there were any other questions from the live audience.
And
Oh, here you go. Yeah, how do you feel? How do you feel you have grown from when you started collecting to how you are collecting now?
oh man, in the past 2 years, my knowledge on baseball and baseball cards has grown so much that like you tell me a card and I image it in my head, and I know every single what like the top sets and the Bowman sets. And I know what year they're from just by looking at them, and like even the reason I really didn't like the 53 Bowman cards was because I couldn't look at the player and tell who it was, but now I can, and that's why I enjoy them more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, past 2-3 years, my knowledge has grown.
Now, has that been? I mean, obviously it's like sort of self-taught, and again, the more you do or get involved with anything over time, you just without knowing it subconsciously just absorb knowledge, and all of a sudden you're saying like, oh wow, how do I know all these things? Did you get a lot of the knowledge you acquired over the last say couple years through your own research or through maybe looking at other YouTube channels? And are there any? I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot. Are there some certain YouTube channels that you enjoy watching that have given you some of the knowledge of the cards
Besides,
that you're interested in?
besides our two channels, Jack.
Oh, of course.
You know, that's a given. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously my own research, like I could tell you, oh, Harmon Killebrew has 573 home runs or whatever. But also, like you said, YouTube channels. Definitely, John Mangini has helped me a lot with the pre-war and getting to know those sets. But also just like a mixture of a bunch of people. I really this hasn't been a lot of knowledge, but I really enjoyed Drew of Vintage Legacies. His stories are great. And then Geez Mikey has also
Yep.
taught me a lot about collecting sets and how to store them. So yeah, and then also reading books. I'm reading The Gas House Gang right now. It's a really good book. So
Yeah. What I find is now I've always been interested in vintage. I really haven't been focused on building my vintage collection, say for the last maybe 3 years. But I pick up a whole lot of information from other YouTube channels, even if it's them showing up a recent pickup, and it's a card of a player that I know this player has a 1963 card, but it's been a while since I've seen it. And when they get it and show it off, I'm like, wow, that is a really cool looking card. So I sort of put it, not that I say I have to go right away and get one, but I put it in my memory bank of, yeah, hey, I remember that's a really good card. I want to put that over to the side here, and maybe, I'll pick up one of those as opposed to some other cards. So I think this YouTube community is just great in terms of knowledge, checking out others' cards, and seeing what people pick up. And some people like John Mangini, they'll show off a card. You go, I didn't even know this existed. And then you want to do some research on that set and see what other players may be in there and so on.
Yep.
I know there's a couple other questions here. I think I can see here. Donna what advice would you give to a young collector who is a vintage collector? So, Don, this is a question for you.
What advice would I give?
Yeah, to
I
a
would
young
just keep,
collector. Yeah.
just keep learning about the history of the game and finding out about the players. They don't necessarily have to be Hall of Famers, even though that's kind of the area I collect. But there's, you're reading a book on the Gas House Gang, and I saw you had a card earlier of one of the members of the Gas House Gang, and just just keep soaking up the knowledge. And just because you're young doesn't mean that you're not going to be knowledgeable about these players. And keep learning from YouTube. It's just a great tool.
Yeah.
You can just search whatever you're looking for, and don't. I think everyone says this, but don't care about other people's opinions. Just if you like it, it's a great card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Three Rivers card collector. What sets do you recommend for starting vintage collectors? And then he has a couple of favorites that he recommends and wants to know maybe if they match up with yours. So what sets would you recommend maybe to start off for some vintage collectors?
I would say definitely the 52 Bowman set. I love it. It's such a beautiful set. And also it's not really very expensive, except for obviously the Mickey Mantle and the Willie Mays. But I'm probably 75% done with it at this point, and I've been doing
awesome.
So
yeah, there's what about is it 250 some cards in that set? Or 240? 240 something.
Yeah.
Do you have many big cards left in that set, or do you have those already?
I know I'm a couple of the bigger ones like Sam Usual, but I've got most of the Hall of Fame rookie cards, Minnie Minoso and Monty Irvin. Yeah.
Good.
Do you have the man on Mays?
No.
Maybe your dad might have hooked you up, got you on. We'll have to get him on here and talk to him about that.
Yeah. Here's a question for from Mookie Chulson. Jack, have you made any mistakes in the early going of your vintage collecting? Anything you learned from?
Yes. This is kind of a little bit off topic, but still a very big mistake that I made. In my video 30, I said Lon hit or had.
I think we're losing you. I'm not sure if it's I think it was maybe Dawn interfering here. So Jack, if you wouldn't mind starting over there.
So I was showing off my 33 Gaudis, and my dad always makes fun of me for this, but so I was showing off my 33 Gaudis, and I pulled up Lon Warnicki, and I was telling you guys about him, and I said Lon Warnicki pitched back-to-back no-hit games, and obviously the only person that has ever done that is Johnny Vandermeer. Yep. And I went back on the page that I read it from, and it was actually one-hit games. So
back-to-back one-hitters. Okay.
But also, I think I'm going to show you guys a card here. Looking at a card before you're buying it, because obviously, I like the cards even if it's beat up, but I don't want to pay what a 5 would cost if it was a 1. I don't want to spend extra money.
Right.
This looks really nice. This superstar card right here, and it has Killebrew, Mays, and Man.
Yeah,
but
great card.
I bought it impulse. I bought it on impulse.
Okay.
Before I looked at the back, and there's, you can see it right here, and there's another one right here. It's like felt, and it's glued onto it. I don't know what.
Oh wow! Oh, so it's not even marker. It's they glued something to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but
interesting.
So yeah, I mean,
And just curious, do you remember whether you bought that online
no,
or in person?
I at a card show.
You bought it at a card show. Well, you're not the only one, and I'm trying to remember now who it was. I was watching one of their pickup videos. I'm not sure if it was card collector or someone, but bought I think it was a 56 Willie Mays.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they put the price sticker on the front, and okay, you turn it over, and the way you hold it and stuff, didn't realize that it had a hole punch
Yeah,
in it. And I mean, he picked it up, but just the way he picked it up where his thumb was, it covered over it. And again, you're going to have those, if you want to call them mistakes. And I bought cards that online that I saw even graded cards. They only had a picture of the front. And while the centering on the back isn't too big of a deal, I remember buying I think it was a 79 Dave Winfield. The front was really nice. In 79s, you sometimes get some diamond centering or off center. And this was on the front, fairly well centered. And it was maybe a PSA 8 or something like that. And I turned they didn't have a picture of the back, but I bought it anyway. And then when I got it, I mean, talk about like 90-10. I mean, it is, you can barely see on one side the border. And it's like, at first I was a little disappointed, but then I'm like, hey, it's the back. Like you said, a couple of examples you showed. Hey, the front's nice. Okay, the back has some writing or missing paper on it or things like that. So I can still enjoy it because the front looks great. But that was a case where I chose to buy something where I didn't see the front and the back. So I don't know if there are any other questions. We probably only have maybe 3 minutes left, and I see Theo coming on here. Probably start giving me the yank here.
We got a couple minutes left. I had a question for Jack. I figured I'd jump in and ask it since you lost one of the two guys. So I figured.
Appreciate it, Theo.
Jack, I love your channel, man. It's always great seeing younger guys in the hobby. I'm sure. Do you hate it when people call you guys kids sometimes?
But maybe a little bit, but really that's what I am. And,
Oh.
Yeah.
But my question was actually, and I know it's so hard being 15 years old, but in 10 years from now, if you could foresee your age 25, I see you and your dad buying collections now, selling the collections. I just think that's great experience. I think that's awesome. But do you see yourself setting up at shows as a dealer? Do you see yourself basically doing the same thing you're doing now? What do you, if you had to guess, what would you be, where would you be at with your collection 10 years from now?
I would like to say that I'd have a collection like John Mangini, but obviously the next 10 years I'll be 25. I'm not too sure about college. I've been thinking more about trade school, but anyway, collection wise, I would, it's kind of difficult to think because obviously if I'm living in an apartment, it would be pretty tough to fit all the cards in. I'm hoping I'm still making YouTube videos. But it's kind of hard to see the future, but I don't know.
That's perfectly fine. I just I was kind of curious if you had like a goal out there to be a dealer also one day. I'd love to hear too is John, what age did you start collecting vintage?
That's sort of hard. I picked up my first vintage card it was probably around the mid 80s. I think it was around the time when the Canseco Donruss, 86 Donruss, Canseco was the big rookie card. My dad actually bought me my first true vintage card, and it was a 48 Bowman red Shane Deist rookie card.
Oh,
not
nice.
Graded, because of course back then graded really wasn't a thing. It has some pencil marks on it. It's off center. I mean, if I sent it into grading, you would probably get a 1 because I think some of the writing was like tried to erase it off. It definitely has a mark on it and stuff. But he's like, hey, that red Shane Deist, my dad wasn't a huge sports fan, but he recognized the name and, oh, I think he was a good player. And it was like a $5 card or something like that back then.
Yeah.
So I always had that card. And probably when I was maybe 10 or 11, so maybe early 80s, a neighbor of mine traded some cards. I had some Phillies cards, maybe some football cards of a team that he wanted, and it was either his cousin or aunt had a group of 64 Topps cards and
Nice.
picked up a very off-center miscut Mickey Mantle, a beat-up Yogi Berra and stuff, and those were some of my prize cards for years. Like, oh my gosh, I have a Mickey Mantle card.
Yeah.
It's all beat up, or miscut, but hey, it's a Mickey Mantle card.
Wow, that's really cool. I would ask Don the same question, but he would say they weren't vintage cards when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
let's bring John in. We got the if you guys are new to, if this is your first live stream of the day, at the last 5 minutes of every live stream, we're going to spin the wheel for the drawing. And go ahead, John.
All right. So you said you wanted to give your card away next there, Theo.
Yeah.
You got that one?
Yeah, so we're going to give away the Hank Aaron, 1973 Hank Aaron. So whoever wins on this wheel spin gets it.
All right. So once again, we'll give it the old 4 shuffles. 2, 3, and a 4. There we go.
Looks like a lot of entries into the contest, which is great.
It's a big wheel.
Cy Guy, excellent.
Congrats. Cy Guy
Nice.
29.
All right, so Cy Guys, we're gonna have to connect to get your address. Well, this was a lot of fun. I want to thank John and Jack and Dawn, obviously, who had some technical difficulties there. But I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this.
Oh, our pleasure. I think what you guys are doing for this new channel for collectors, 4 great guys, 4 great collectors. I think you're going to have some great content. Really looking forward to what you put out on the channel. So we're happy to start off this sort of kickstart for you.
It was great. It was great.
Cool. So the next live stream that is going to be here in about 3 minutes is the Jeter off. Pepino Man and Lou Rock are going to be live. So if you guys want,
I'm sure that'll be a very sedate and mellow hour, right?
Yeah, just nice and cool and relaxed. And
oh man. All right. Well, we're signing off here. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the support. We're actually 1 sub away from 300 subs.
that's awesome.
So yeah, it's awesome. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you guys on the next live stream.
See ya.